The Virtual World Society. Join us in building better realities together.
Hello, and thank you for coming to the Virtual World Society's Fireside Chat. I'm Dr. Angelina Dayton, the Executive Director of the Virtual World Society. Our mission is to help bring about good in the world through emerging technologies, and we are so happy you're here today. A big thanks to our event production team. Up on top, you'll see Laurel Van Fossen and the whole team from Educators in VR. We host these events monthly with Dr. Tom Furness, the grandfather of virtual reality and the founder and chairman of the board of the Virtual World Society, who has been jet-setting all around the world this last month, meeting with kings and queens and princes all through Europe, because he's super famous and important. And I'm going to pass it over to Tom now to introduce our guest.
Angelina. You're wonderful. Well, this is a great day. Actually, I was introduced to Leslie by Angelina, and as it turns out, and this is one amazing person. I mean, Leslie, you're probably the most brilliant and engaging persons I've ever met. Well, aside from probably most of you, but
wow.
So,
Thank
wow,
you.
yeah. Well, so here's Leslie Shannon. Wonderful to have you with us. Leslie is famous in her own right. She's worked for Nokia for 20 years. She's one of the ancient ones, having worked at Nokia. And she will tell us, I'm sure, some things about that coming up soon. She is now the head of trend and innovation scouting at Nokia. This is the job I've always wanted. I mean, when you, Eve, you recommend me, can you think of a better job? You'll tell us more about that, I'm sure, as well. But she actually trained, get this, in the history of art and in psychology at the University of Virginia and Yale University.
Yep.
Now get this, she's a 5-time winner, champion of Jeopardy! I don't know if you guys know that. You guys know the program Jeopardy! On TV? Only the brilliant ones show up on that. She's won 5 times. Here she is, a contestant at Jeopardy! She's probably more importantly, she's the mother of 2 sons, one of whom is accompanying her now at the University of Virginia for orientation. Yep. And again, she's not only one of the most engaging persons I've met, but she's also the author of 2 brand new books that hopefully you'll be telling us about, Interconnected Realities and Virtual Natives. But let's go back to the original picture of the two of them together. The next one, there. Now, tell us about these 2 pictures, Leslie.
Well, I wish I still looked like the one in red, but that one was taken in about 2002 in Australia, where I'm from the States originally, but I had emigrated to Australia in the year 1997. And I was working for Nokia in 2002 here in that red picture. And I was running a developer lab called the Future Lab, which was a developer lab for WAP applications on mobile phones. It was the super early days of mobile data, and everybody was trying to figure out what the heck would you use mobile data for? And these are black and white screens, text only, press 1 for this option, press 2 for that option. And it was cowboy time. It was really, really great. There were no rules because there was no precedent. And so we would just sit around and dream up stuff and go find a developer that could build what we had dreamed up. And that's why I look so happy. I mean, in this picture, it was just such an amazing time. And the thing is that, history repeats itself. Here we are again in the virtual world doing the same thing, sitting around going, we've got this tool, we've got this technical capability. What do we do with it? What are we going to build that's going to be the thing that makes people want to come here and stay here? And well, not stay here, but what will make it super useful? Yeah. So I mean, I really think that we're in a very similar kind of place for comparing to the early days of mobile phones. And then
Wow.
and then the second picture,
Yeah.
that's generative AI at work. It's feed in
No,
a
that's
whole
what you
bunch
really
of
look like,
pictures.
isn't
And yeah, well, that's what I look like today. Of course, you should
That's
see my
right.
hair. It's
That's
like looks
right.
like that all the time. I'm not really sure why this one came out military, because it does look a little bit like I'm about to like galactic trooper kind of aspect
That's
to it.
right. That's right. Yeah. But you're going to talk to us a little bit about meat envelopes here for long, right? This is a meat envelope.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here we all are. Now here we are engaged, and I guess we don't have an option to choose anything other than a human avatar. But like actually, does my avatar have glasses?
No.
Okay,
You
all
have
right.
this really
Okay,
nice hairdo and everything. Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, all of us know when we first come into virtual spaces, quite often our default avatar, the first thing we build, is something that looks like what we look like actually in the physical world. But I've discovered it's just so much fun to get away from the meat envelope that we're born into and to try other things like, yay, look, no glasses, yay. And so it's time to, I mean, the voice still gives it away, right? I am clearly, female, but this is the chance for us to really, I mean, all of you are here in virtual reality, so but this is the chance for us to approach and understand each other as we truly are, as human beings at the core, and understanding the transience and the almost irrelevance of that meat envelope that we're born into, and to help see each other as we truly are. And so that's one of the things that I really love about virtual reality.
Wonderful. So let's go to this next picture again, and tell us a little bit about what happened in your early childhood that brought you to as a contestant into Jeopardy.
Well, it was basically my parents bought Trivial Pursuit in the 80s, and we would play Trivial Pursuit after dinner every single night all through high school, and I ended up memorizing that entire deck of the first game. And in fact, my very first husband, that sounds terrible. My first husband, I've only had two, but my first husband, I actually met him when I beat him at a Trivial Pursuit game, which was like fabulous. But yeah, I was on Jeopardy in 1992. I was a 5-time undefeated winner. That was back when they retired you after 5 games. And this is a picture from that. Here I am, like a little, I just out of graduate school when this picture was taken. And I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had gone to graduate school in the history of art because I love beautiful things and thinking about and analyzing beautiful things. And you get out, and I'm like, oh, what do I do now? And I went on Jeopardy, and I won a ton of money, especially because I was so young. I actually held the record for the youngest undefeated winner, female undefeated winner, for actually quite some years. And as Alex Trebek on my last show, on the 5th show, in the interview section, he goes, "So, Leslie, I understood, Tan, you just got out of graduate school and you're unemployed." He said on national TV that I was unemployed. I got 15 different job offers. This was before the internet. People had to find me in the phone book and call me up. And I got like a textile company in South Carolina. I mean, it was a crazy range. And I ended up, whoa, what have I done? And I ended up actually taking one of those jobs. And let's do that. Great. And ended up working in a computer company, and that was the path that ultimately led me to Nokia. So I got my job in tech because I won on Jeopardy.
Wow, what a story! Amazing. So now you've been at Nokia for 20 years in various roles, and all leading up to the one you have now, which to me has got to be a perfect dream job. As a technology scout. I mean, really? You get paid for that? It's like getting paid for playing games, I mean.
See, that's got to be my next career move. But this really does come from the very specific history of Nokia. Now, all of you guys know about Nokia mobile phones, but the but the company itself, it's 150 years old. It's based in Finland, and and along with the mobile phone side of the business, we also always did Nokia networks. And so that's the part of the company that is actually creating the hardware and the software to build fixed and mobile networks. And so our main customers are the phone companies who then take that equipment and build the networks that you all use. And so, so I've always been on the network side. And I was in Finland at the headquarters for 11 years, and I had a front row seat to watch the crash and the burn of the handset division. And part of it was in 2006, they achieved the goal that they had, which was to achieve 40% global market share with Nokia mobile phones. And they did that. That had always been like the unattainable goal, but they finally got there, 2006. So then they kind of like, they take their foot off the accelerator. They sit back and they go, we know this market now. This is our market. We totally own this market. And so what we say is what this market will do. So now we can just determine what mobile phones are going to be from here on out, which is the height of complacency and arrogance. And of course, 2007 was when the iPhone came out. And what Apple did was they reimagined that device in the pocket from being a telephone to being a computer. And Nokia mobile phones was sold to Microsoft 6 years later, only 6 years later, for $5 billion, which was practically free, frankly, given how much the valuation had been before that. So with that history, you know, and watching that play out in slow motion around me, I was actually, so in 2015, I moved from Finland to Silicon Valley, and I get there and I'm doing a particular job, but I'm looking around and I'm going, oh, there is so much innovation in other industries that's happening here. And you know what? If we're not careful, then the same thing that happened to the mobile phone guys is going to happen to us. Because if we're only looking at telecommunications, if we're only looking at connectivity, somebody else somewhere else is going to reimagine this. Like, oh, maybe the satellite guys. And they're going to come in with a better solution than what we've come up with, and we're going to be completely blindsided. So I started off by looking around at things like, you know, the satellite provision of mobile services. But then it grew from that, and it actually, that beginning was very fear-based. It was very like, oh God, let's not lose control of our industry, to wait a second, there is a ton of opportunity. And if you look outside your industry and you look at the problems that other industries have that maybe your industry can solve, but it's only when you actually go and look and make that connection, that's when you find what these opportunities are. So, and happily, I was able to show to Nokia, to my management, that this was something that was worth doing, and they officially changed it to be my job after I'd started doing it kind of informally about a year and a half later. So
basically, you wrote your own job description, sounds like.
I did.
And condensed them.
I started doing it in addition to my full-time job, and then I was able to just show the value, and they said, okay, we get it. Let's make this your job.
Right. All right. Well, obviously, you've had a lot of experience. I mean, traveling around the world, interacting with people, doing this innovation technology scouting has led to some wonderful things, including this book that you've just written called Interconnected Reality. I'm sure that it was influenced a lot by the experiences you had. You want to tell us how that evolved? Meanwhile, I'm going to try to sit down again.
Yeah, I know you've stood up.
Twitched. I know. Sorry about that. Standing ovation. That was not.
I was feeling so flattered. So Interconnected Realities is a book. It's available now. It's out on Amazon. It just came out like less than a month ago, so I'm really excited about it. It's a book about the metaverse, and I know it's kind of retro to write a book about the metaverse, but the point is, it's a book for people who don't know what the metaverse is, who don't know what spatial computing is, and to talk about what it is, what it can do, and where it's going, based on the stuff that I've seen as a trend scout. So it's chock full of use cases and the vision that I have from the connectivity world, without being technical at all. Just here's the reality of how we see this advancing and moving, particularly towards augmented reality. But my publisher was like, You cannot use the word metaverse in the title because that will scare away casual people who are like, "Oh, I don't know what this metaverse thing is." So it's only in the subtitle, right? But it is a book about the world that we're all in right now, and how it's going to become completely mainstream, which I fully believe. I think this is the decade where we actually have, we're the advanced brigade here, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, by the end of this decade, this will be a much more common experience for everybody. But then the second book that I've got coming out, and Tom, I hope you don't mind if I just segue right over into it.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is called Virtual Natives, and this one's coming out in September. It's also available. It's available for pre-order on Amazon. This I wrote with Catherine Henry, and Catherine, full credit to Catherine. The title is hers, and the idea of the book is hers. And this is about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha, so kind of everybody 25 and below, how they're using digital media, and how they use digital tools in their lives, and how it's going to completely change everything. And it's not just, that they're hanging out a lot in virtual worlds, which they are, but it's how they have a much freer mindset than we do. And so kind of the way that I define virtual natives and what's, relevant here is about 20 years ago, we started hearing people talk about digital natives when people were like, oh, these are kids who have always had the internet. Isn't that amazing? Well, early computerization of things, it just was computerizing the existing physical world process without actually changing it very much. Like email is almost exactly the same as sending an interoffice memo to somebody else in a physical envelope, which some of us did way back in the day, and it's just, I send you a message and we're the only ones who see it. And so, that's what email is. It's a replication of this actual physical process. But the thing is that the virtual natives, the ones who are coming up now, who were all born, this millennium, they don't have those analog processes. They don't have those physical world processes as a reference point or expectation set at all. Instead, what they have is a series of objectives. Okay, here's the outcome I want, and digital tools, and they are completely free to reimagine everything to get themselves to the outcome that they want. And they're doing it. And so they're coming up with all kinds of crazy stuff that we have not been able to imagine because we're kind of mired in our subconscious in this kind of physical analog stuff that went before. And so for kids, the virtual natives, something like Slack is much more, it's like, hey, I don't just send a message to you and we're the only ones who see it. I send it and it's part of the whole team and it goes into the history of the project. And this is a much more efficient way of communicating as part of a project. Who uses email? And so that's just one kind of small example. Whoa. Oh, okay. Sorry. I just recentered myself apparently. but anyway, that's the second book and that one comes out in September.
Well, no, there were other motivations, as we discussed before, for this thinking about virtual natives in terms of what's happening with the kids. I mean, they've been through a lot of late. And the traditional way of doing things have been completely disrupted for them, especially their educational setting, what they see happening in the world, what do they see as their future, things like that. Comment on that a little bit and how that fits into this virtual native.
Right. And I think one of the problems that Catherine and I saw was that almost all of the research that you hear and all of the things that you read about regarding this particular generational cohort, it's almost all negative. That's the stuff that's capturing the headlines. That's the stuff that everybody's writing about. And when we started doing our research for the book, and including talking to actual teenagers, we discovered, okay, yes, there is a lot of loneliness and there is a lot of isolation, and COVID had a lot to do with that. But on the other hand, there's this amazing story of massive empowerment that kids are bringing into their own worlds with the digital tools that they have. And that's the story that we wanted to tell. And that's the story of this book.
Wow. That's fantastic. So back to the, we talked a little bit before, earlier last week, earlier this week, I guess it was, on women in VR, and where we see a redefinition of the kind of leadership role that women can take in this new field, an emerging field. What is your take on that?
Oh, Tom, I'm so glad you asked this. I mean, so I'm a woman in my 50s working in Silicon Valley, and I don't have an engineering degree. That's 3 strikes right there. And so in general, within Silicon Valley, it's like, okay, being female and being old enough to be everybody's mother, and like also like you have a degree in the history of art. Okay, we're gonna just laugh you right out of the building right now. And so so that being kind of the general like professional atmosphere that I find myself in the South Bay, the metaverse world is an exception, and it's a massive exception because I do trend scouting across a lot of different areas. But in the whole virtual VR, AR, XR, there are so many women and so many passionate women and female leaders. I'm looking at Angelina's avatar back there, woo, shout out to Angelina, and in this audience, there's a lot of women. Yeah, woo, and so there's an enablement here again, and it goes back to kind of freeing ourselves up from the meat envelope. I've already told you, but unless I had told you, you would not actually know how old I am. So that kind of takes away that the age thing. And yeah, my voice is female, but of course the technology is coming where I could choose some other voice if I wanted to actually adopt a different identity for myself, right? And so we're getting away from these stereotypes, and I think another part of why there's so many women in kind of the metaverse world in this new technology is that because the metaverse fundamentally is about people. It's about people connecting to people exactly as we all are here today, and the social aspect, the creating societies, creating communities, that's actually something where women really thrive and have traditionally led. So I think, we've got a really fantastic opportunity here for kind of the male and the female elements and spirits to come together to build something just super balanced and useful and inspiring for all of us.
Wow. Well, now this role of avatars, the avatars that are basically the envelope we put over our envelope.
The digital envelope.
That's right, the digital envelope. And you mentioned in the workplace how, the problems that certainly women had in the corporate workplace than the men. And certainly the appearance is one big deal in that, right? What you
it is.
You had to, yeah.
That was one of the things that turned up in the research that we did for virtual natives. One of the things that's really true about the younger cohort is they are super gender fluid, without even in a non-sexual way, just everybody's just kind of androgynous, and there's just this huge acceptance for all kinds of identity fluidity. And so as a part of looking into that and researching that, we found that after COVID, when everybody had gone home, there were a lot of particularly women and particularly minority women who really were much happier doing their professional corporate work at home, because that kind of kept them from the gaze of others on a regular basis in the workplace, and with the unintended microaggressions that can come along with that, the well-meaning but insensitive questions that make you feel uncomfortable. And so that is something that is completely avoided in a workplace like this, where we can be something, we can be a giant banana, and then it doesn't matter what the height of the heels that we're wearing is. That's the kind of freedom that people are finding. And and so some of I actually am really looking forward to much higher use of virtual workplaces, because I think this is a place where we can really connect. At the end of this hour, I'm going to feel like I was in a room with all of you, because I am in a room with all of you. And I've been sitting next to you, Tom.
Listen.
And so, yeah. And it's where we are physically just doesn't matter. Where we are digitally, it's presence. The metaverse is really about presence and being together and sharing our essence with each other in real time.
Right.
And yeah.
I think I would add to that it's where your spirit is.
Yes.
This
Oh, and
thing
Tom, I
that's
love.
inside an envelope, right?
I love how you bring the spirit into the conversation. I'm gonna ask you, talk a little bit more about the spirit in the avatar.
Well, let's just think about this term you used, meat envelope. This meat that basically becomes this surrounding, this container for our spirit. And our spirit, sort of is something that goes beyond the essence of the meat envelope. I mean, it is probably is there before and after the meat envelope sort of disappears. So when we put on a virtual avatar, how is that any different than really having our physical body? It becomes a new physical body that's a transportation system for our senses, but it is also a transportation system for our spirit, because as far as I'm concerned, you're here. Your spirit,
100%.
your essence, what is represented by this representation, this meat envelope, whatever we want to call it, this avatar, is you're just as present to me here as if actually we were standing together, which we have, by the way.
Which we have, yes. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree.
Maybe that makes a difference, but we're beginning in a lot of the experiments that I've been doing of late, realizing that there's great power in being able to move our spirits around to places where we didn't think we could go, and to do that rapidly and to touch the hearts of many people. And so I think this is going to be a voyage of discovery. In a way, I believe that virtual reality can be training wheels for our spirit, can help us now encompass and fold more than we ever had in the past. So anyhow, that's just sort of my,
oh, Tom, I love that. I
there.
love that. Oh, yeah. Wait, I gotta give you hearts now.
So now, I think did you have some questions you wanted to ask the audience about anything?
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, let's, open this conversation up. Like, now, okay, Tom and I have actually met each other, and we have physically sat together and spoken. And it certainly helps that, Tom, you've got a photorealistic avatar over there. That certainly looks like you. But how is it for you all being in the audience, and perhaps, I mean, Tom and I, we're both in VR, right? So we both have a VR headset. But some of you are on PCs. How present do you feel here in this place with these people and in this conversation? Anybody.
I think you need to unmute yourselves. I think we
is everybody muted there? Okay.
Yeah, I think they're allowed to unmute themselves and then make a comment.
So turn the left wrist and
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a comment. I'm Keely.
Yep.
Oh, Keely?
Hello.
Yes.
yeah, hey Keely.
You go ahead, Steph. I can hold off.
Okay. My comment is that I'm on an iPad, and I do feel present, though a little bit invisible. I can sit here having my lunch, and nobody knows the difference. So it's handy.
What are you having for lunch?
Actually, it's dessert. Ice cream.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Great. Now.
And Keely?
Yeah, I feel pretty present, and I've been honored and blessed to be able to meet Tom and Angelina in real life, and I felt like we had met in real life before we met in real life, and we could tell, like, I found Angelina without actually really seeing her face, or just like the side, and the height. And I was just like the energy. I felt the energy. So that's what I connect with, is everybody's spirit or energy here. And I love it.
Yeah, I think that I mean, Tom, what you said about, spirits, maybe meat envelope is maybe not that's focusing on the envelope. I think
Yeah.
the envelope as the covering for the spirit, whatever it happens
Yes.
to be, that's probably the better way to look at it. Yeah, because that's what we sense, even through these digital representations. That's what we sense, isn't it? Yeah, and that's really the beauty and the magic of it. And that's what people, you can't understand that until you've actually been there and tried
That's
this
right.
and experienced this. Yeah. And I do a lot of speaking to the phone companies of the world and telling them, hey, this is what's coming. Your networks need to be ready. And at the end I say, look, get out there and try it. You don't know the power of this until you actually experience it for yourself. But this is definitely preaching to that choir,
Well, don't you? I mean, maybe all of you feel, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel that I'm present with you. I mean, I feel this is so different than looking on a screen, on a Zoom screen with all your faces on it. To have this three-dimensional environment where, yes, it's the same pixels, you're just pixels, but there's something else going on. I believe that this embodiment and moving of our spirit, we're moving ourselves to a place. We don't do that on a screen, right? On Zoom, we aren't
Right.
really moving ourselves to a place. Here, we are actually moving ourselves to a place, even though that place may be on a screen. It's a little bit different. And I feel the spirits, in this room. And
Well, Tom, you
yeah.
notice that they talk about people throwing their voice. I think you can throw your consciousness, and that's what we're doing, is we're throwing our consciousness to another place. We're
Steph, I
still
love that.
who we are and where we are, but we're also here, where
Right.
we are here.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
That's
well,
true.
and within virtual natives, I mean, we really look at this, and the thing is that our, the kids have been experiencing each other in these digital worlds, particularly gaming worlds. My kids have met other kids from all over the world from their youngest days, first by watching videos on YouTube or whatever, and then meeting other people from other places. The one tyranny, so there, a boba place opened up in my neighborhood in California, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I've had boba in Singapore and Hong Kong. I can tell my kids about how my kids already knew what it was, because the people that they had met online from Singapore and Hong Kong had been talking about boba. There's this global awareness, because this digital connecting of spirits really erases distance, just in a super major way. And I think there's going to be ramifications for this in terms of world peace, when we can finally understand the viewpoints and of people in all kinds of places over the world. The tyranny of the time zone is the only one that remains.
Yep.
So, Mitch, I see that you just raised your hand.
Yeah, so I'm super interested in that particular point, is that it seems like a really underrated feature of this magic technology is that we can reduce the amount of people that actually have to move around and get in planes and catch cabs and all that kind of stuff.
Are you coming to us from Australia by any chance?
I am, yeah. I'm getting ready to take my meat envelope on a train into the city anytime soon.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, Mitch, that is great. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that as I'm kind of walking around here, I'm on a PC. I've got my headphones on. My kids are still asleep in their bedrooms. I'm still feeling very connected to you all, because I thought at some point I might talk, I might say something. And I sort of come back to my computer and wiggle the mouse a bit, just so you know I'm still alive. There's this sort of you don't get it on a Zoom call. You actually tend to do the other thing, which is start off with your face on the screen and then go on mute, mute your video and then walk away and just do something else. Whereas this is
Email
kind
man.
of just, yeah. And I'm listening in, I'm enjoying what everyone's comments are, I'm enjoying your story, and, thinking to myself, this is so good because I'm going to have a chance to connect with you any second now. And that's the magic of this technology, is that, like you said, we're just bridging time and space like we've never been able to do before.
And I think there's going to be profound implications for this. I really do. We don't erase distance like that without there being some kind of change that comes out of it. And right now, because there's so, in terms of like global population, there's so few of us who are in this world, that it hasn't, but we're the tiny pebble that has started bouncing down the slope, and there's going to be an avalanche and it's a good avalanche. That's maybe not a good metaphor, but a good avalanche by getting people to connect directly with each other and have that person-to-person understanding, which hasn't been possible until now.
Laura,
I think Laura has
Kusamoto, have you been patiently trying to raise your hand?
That's okay.
You're so
It's
wonderfully
all
patient.
That's all right. No worries. One thing that I've been thinking about is I actually do think that a lot of some of the qualities we're talking about are present also in Zoom and in Slack and in computer games. And there is a common element of both being where you are where your attention is. You can be lost in Facebook, you can be lost in Zoom, you can be lost. And I think there's something here about what would grab your attention, what keeps your attention, what makes you believe that you are somewhere. So I think there's the art side of suspension of disbelief is part of what works so well about this. And I think that's a super power of the VR, that it is suspending the disbelief that we are not actually here, right? We all know we actually, I'm in front of a PC today too, but I'm not looking at anything else. I'm looking at you, right? Because you're completely grabbing my attention. And I think as designers, we need to think about our experiences when we try to introduce other elements of the real world to this one. Maybe we don't want to do that, just want to say.
we don't need to import any tyrannies from the physical world. And I know Brett also raised his hand, but Leslie, I was going to say that the tyranny of time, my son had said, what is this 9 to 5 thing? What is that? What is that? So I think that the virtual natives do not have a tyranny of time, do they?
Oh, 100%. That's actually another thing that we talk about, how businesses, they're gonna have to adapt to the fact that 9 to 5 is not something that the digital native, or the virtual natives rather, are interested in at all. And in fact, why should they be? Why should they be? Let's rethink that. We're going to be rethinking the entire work structure. Like, yeah, they're going to make us do
Brett,
that.
And Brett, did you have your hand raised? I didn't want to miss you. I think
Charlene did.
I did. I had to find my.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually had my hand raised. I hope you can hear me.
The whole dialogue. Presence. The question you started out with in addressing the audience is because I spend a lot of time in VR, and today during this meeting I decided to pick joining on my PC, partly because I'm a multitasker and I've got a big project coming up, and so I am doing 3 or 4 things at once. But the main point that I wanted to bring up is that I am a gamer, and so I spend a lot of time, like as soon as somebody else is asking a question, I'm turning my head, I'm interacting with Steph over here, like I am gaming presence while I'm here. And I know that not everybody that's in VR are gamers, right? And a lot of the population that we work with, we are slowly beginning to help them understand what these virtual natives already understand. They already know how to do this innately in ways. And so, I'm a 48-year-old man who's been gaming all my life. It's easy for me to have a presence here in a digital world very, very easy. Whereas I know a lot of the population that I work with, a lot of the professionals in the world, they're struggling to bridge this gap and feel like they can have a sense of presence. So I just wanted to name, like, it's not everybody, universally that feels the way that many of us feel in this room right now.
That's right. That's a great point. But I'm glad you mentioned like the gaming and your age. One of the things also, being a virtual native is not determined by your birth date. It's determined by your state of mind. And so you are clearly a virtual native, and you're nodding there. You just proved my point. And not every young person is a virtual native either, but kind of the majority of them do fall into that younger group. But understanding how to communicate, and one of the huge benefits of the gaming world is that for certain tasks, NASA has specifically started hiring young people, gamers, because they are excellent at making high quality decisions very rapidly with limited information. Because that's what you do in gaming. And that's what you also have to do in crisis situations in managing space missions. So, so these are real world skills. These are real world skills that we are learning in these virtual worlds. This is not a waste of time. This is life. This is real. This is making us better people.
As opposed to us being isolated, which is
right.
The common conception that we're all fighting right now.
Oh, so true. Hang on, I've just my headset's running out of power. Let me go plug it in again. My head is gonna do funny things. Don't scream.
Tom, you could probably see better than I can.
I see
Tom,
what Charlene had her hand up.
I can. Yeah.
Charlene? You want to unmute Charlene and make a comment?
Looks like she's trying to unmute.
Charlene, if you're on your phone, you have to press and hold it down, like a walkie-talkie.
Oh,
there
okay.
You go.
Sorry, this is my first time using the phone, so I'm sorry.
Cool. Okay, we heard that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I was just gonna say that I feel really present, minus being able to talk on my phone. But I also wanted to ask what you think. I know you're talking about virtual natives, but I just I'm trying to imagine what it's going to be like when all the Roblox and Minecraft kids hit the workforce. Like the kids that are, especially the ones that are like 13 right now. I'm curious to see what that's going to bring in terms of, all of the changes to what their expectations are, like you mentioned, and also, like you said, for world peace, it's very hard to get people to fight fight a country when they know that their friends are in that country, So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's something really beautiful.
I certainly hope so. And yeah, I mean, what we're seeing in the really early phases of like the virtual native cohort moving into adulthood, because this is the reason that we wrote this book right now, because this is kind of the transition threshold that's happening right now. And the early signs are, okay, so let's look at what we've got here. We've got all these children who have been used to having this very extremely wide view of the world. They've got these digital tools at their fingertips that can give them almost superpowers, and they're totally they're freed from the expectations set by whatever the purely physical processes of the past were. So if you put all those things together, and then you've got these kids who are focused on the outcome, and they've got these powerful tools. And then you tell them like, oh, okay, to get a mortgage, you need to do these 27,000 unnecessary seeming steps and jump through 29 hoops. And they're not going to stand for it. They're going to go, this is fucking ridiculous. Sorry. And we're going to start seeing, I think we're going to see this generation come up with serious disruptions and seriously disruptive companies. And again, this is my experience at Nokia speaking. You're only as good as and you're only the star until somebody comes up with a better solution to the problem that your company is solving. And there are a huge number of companies that and just processes globally that we are accustomed to accepting the uselessness in and waiting patiently, and these kids are not going to stand for it, and they've got the tools for it. One of the things that is like for those of you who can see Netflix, there's a film that came out in May called Missing, and it's a hour-and-a-half film. It's fiction, but it's a girl in California whose mother goes missing in Colombia. The entire film, the entire hour-and-a-half, is only showing the screens that this teenager is using to try to locate her mother, and it's her computer screen, it's her phone screen, without being a hacker, the tools that she has to be able to solve this mystery and to, no spoilers, but that's all you need to know about the awesome power that this generation holds. So really recommend watching that.
Wow. Other questions, other comments? Yes. Sarah?
Hi, thank you so much. This is so fascinating. Hello.
Hello.
And I'm sorry I don't remember the gentleman's name. It was a couple of questions ago, but I'm working with incarcerated males who are going to be returning to the workforce and upskilling.
Whoa.
And this is a population that is, this is a population. I think I might die here pretty soon. My non-meat envelope, but so we'll see if I can hang in there before my battery dies.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering. You were talking about avatars earlier, and I've been giving a lot of thought to, how do I present in world, and how does my team present in world from an avatar perspective? Working with a population that, I don't want to get into too much detail, but they've been inside for a super long time, and so they don't have a lot of skills, and they have virtually no digital skills. At any rate, do you have any recommendations for how should we present? Is a banana maybe not a good idea for this population? Is maybe
Oh
no! I think we just lost the digital envelope. Oh no!
That's going to be the new.
Yeah.
My batteries.
Oh dear. It's too bad, Sarah.
Yeah, I don't have experience with that particular population. Anybody here have any ideas about that? Linda, you're here. Hey, you're kind of behind me. I didn't realize you were here.
Hello. Yes, it's muted. I don't have any experience with prison populations. I think that I just wanted to. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't really have any authority to do that. But people have been immersing themselves and lost in the experiences. Movies do it too. You don't have to.
Books, yeah.
Right, books, absolutely. So I think the human capacity to do it is there. It's just so immersive and it's so full on that I think maybe it might take a little getting used to. I'm your age, Leslie. Full disclosure to everybody now, the publicly knows how old I am. Mid-50s, never been a gamer, and yet have no troubles losing myself into an experience immediately. Never have. So I think I think it's being able to suspend disbelief is the important skill set. Because people do it all the time. You go to an IMAX and you forget where you are for 2 hours completely. So I don't think it's beyond people. I think it's just that it's a foreign concept still of being inside an experience. But they will be assimilated, right? Just like the Borg. But it's I don't think it's as big of a stretch. I think it's the concept that's foreign to people. But once they do it, they get it, right? I put my 83-year-old mother in a headset. She got it in 3 seconds once you try it. She's like, oh, now I get what you talk about all the time. But you have to. I think the challenge for the industry is to get people to try it and to try it with an experience that is good, right? Because that's the hook.
One of the things that I see, like in my world of enterprise stuff, the companies that are actually doing augmented reality or virtual reality solutions for their business, they're almost always led by one person. There's a visionary who is the one who believes in the project, and they have the budget power or the just authority in the company to make it happen. We're still such early days that it's very personality driven. So it's the person who has somehow experienced it before and that believes in it and then goes and makes it happen. And, over time, we'll start getting a little bit more of a critical mass. But for now, yeah, that direct experience is so key.
I'd like to throw in a quick comment about, I'd like to throw in a quick comment about the question that Sarah had, even though she left.
Oh, please,
because I think it's also interesting to consider the power of this technology to help heal people. And so I'd really like to connect with her. The first work that I did.
Is that Sarah in the back? Wait, Sarah, you're back.
Sarah back?
Yeah, you're in the back there. Sarah, I don't know if you're.
I just had to. I'm back.
Okay.
I'd love to connect.
All right. So just wanted to say that in the early versions of our virtual worlds that had avatars in 3D but without VR, we were doing research. I worked with someone a lot of you have heard of, which is Walter Greenleaf, and we actually worked with incarcerated adolescents and used this technology to help them to describe and act out what their problems were with their therapists. And so by using this very, very visual way of acting out scenarios, the therapist could more easily see what was going on with them and help them. That's the simple version, but I just really wanted to share that because I think that could probably help with incarcerated adults too.
Wow.
Well, and I wonder how much the ability to have kind of a neutral avatar, somebody who's neither an authority figure, which might be intimidating, nor a powerless figure, but somebody who's just kind of neutral, a neutral human. I wonder. Anyway, it actually sounds like a really fascinating area for research.
Yes.
And Sarah, you get to do that. You get to experiment with that.
Actually, wouldn't it be interesting if you could make an avatar that is an advisor that looks like somebody they cared about in their past, so that they could have someone that's close to them that they're comfortable with, and then visualize and take them through experiences that they haven't been able to do in real life, and desensitize them to the newness of it, which would be a really interesting thing to do for people who've been outside of society for a long time.
And generative AI has just entered the building.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
So I'm looking at the time, Leslie, and we're getting close to the hour, but I wondered if there was any last-minute advice or observations that you would like to leave us with. This is all recorded, so this will be around forever.
Okay. So we've been talking about the human side of this technology, which is truly the most important side. However, there is also kind of the business side of all of this, as I was just mentioning, and I wanted to give a shout out for some research that we just did at Nokia with EY, Ernst & Young, and this is a report that came out just a couple weeks ago, and in it we looked at all kinds of different industries and different technologies, so virtual reality, augmented reality in the automotive sector, the heavy industry sector, and the transport and logistics sector. And it was quite a wide-ranging study, and multiple countries globally. And we asked, among all the different questions that we asked, what were your expectations that this technology would bring to you in terms of business, like measurable business outcome? What were your expectations? And then what has been the result of actually doing this? And what we found, which completely blew my mind, is that for every industry, for every solution, whether it was VR or AR, didn't matter what the implementation was, the expectations were exceeded by the measurable business outcomes. So basically, people went into the stuff with kind of, moderate to low expectations and got spectacular results out of it that were measurable. So things like being able to reduce the amount of spend on travel. That was a huge one, which is also really good for sustainability goals. Being able to capture knowledge, just all the stuff that we, know about. It turns out that this is actually even better than anybody thought it was going to be. And I can't tell you any technology I've ever seen any kind of result like that for, other than this one.
Wow.
Yeah. This is magic, guys. This is just magic. and it's
Okay.
money making magic as well as the human connection magic.
Well, certainly one of the big concerns that the companies have now is the sustainability of this industry. And where is the tipping point? Are we at a tipping point? Because certainly an install base is what's going to be the pull and the economy of scale to get the price down, the cost down for widespread dispersion and of this technology. And certainly when we think about third world countries, they could, most of which could really use this, especially for education and business opportunities and upskilling and things like that, to become active on the world scene. Right now, it's not that the intelligence isn't there. It's just that the opportunity is not there. The access isn't there. So the economy of scale is going to be really big in this, in bringing down the costs. I mean, you find in third world countries, a lot of people running around with their smartphones, although they don't have the electricity to charge them. They have to send them to the school with their kids, to the elementary school, so they can charge their phones. But the point is, it is a leapfrogging things that they didn't have for many years. But how do we make that? Let me ask you this question. How do you think we should proceed with this to where we have, when we consider all the world's citizens and the potential impact of this technology, how should we go about doing that in terms of encircling those folks who right now don't have access?
One of the things that I'm really excited about is, within my job, I do have a global reach and a global scope. And India right now, there's one phone company in India, Jio, and it's owned by the richest man in India. And but that gives him the monetary freedom to try stuff. And so what they are doing right now, they have a huge focus on XR, and specifically they are trying to develop a VR headset that can be used, that can be affordable to the average person in India. And they're taking more the smartphone-based Google Cardboard approach, which Zapbox is also doing right now out of the UK, kind of returning to that form factor, going, okay, you know what? People have smartphones. Not everybody, but more people have those and have VR headsets. Let's leverage that. And so we're starting to see people return to what's existing and leveraging that to give these experiences, both in virtual reality and in augmented reality. And I personally really hope that we actually have a huge outpouring of development from the developers in India, sponsored by Jio, because I really want this new technology to not be led by the West. It would be great if it could be led by the East and the South. Let's get a different perspective in here. And kind of smartphone-based headsets, I think, are going to be a very key part of that.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. It's brilliant. Well, thank you, Leslie, for spending this time with us, especially withdrawing yourself from your son's orientation to be able to do this. I think we have some other information to pass along before we leave. We have a surprise guest coming up. Leslie, you may be back and just don't know it on September the 20th.
That would be a surprise.
This is September the 28th. We're going to ignore. We're ignoring all the.
August is the month that our production team takes off.
Right, that's right. That's right. We have a break. I get a vacation, but September we have a surprise special guest. You'll be hearing more about that later. We have another slide here about joining the Virtual World Society, don't we? Oh, by the way, podcast. Yes. Leslie if you want to hear more from Leslie, she also has been interviewed by Maxwell McGee of the Virtual World Society and the podcast. We have just an amazing portfolio of these podcasts. Be sure to go to that through iTunes or Spotify. You get the information from our website.
Yeah, we talked about other stuff, so it wouldn't be a repeat of this conversation.
It's other stuff, fun stuff,
different stuff. Yeah,
stuff. Okay, and so one of the things we'd like to encourage you, if you haven't already, is to join the Virtual World Society. It's free opportunity to become a member of the family, and let's work together to lift humanity and have fun at the same time. So thanks so much. Leslie, thank you for spending this time with us. And,
thanks, everybody.
And let's give everybody a round of applause for your time. And
I'm clapping for you guys. This was great.
It's great. Yes. Okay.